Okay, if no, then let's move into the last phase. Last phase is actually BOK number 7. BOK number 7 is program management. Now, at this stage, you are program management. You have now reached, you have completed a project, and now it's becoming an ongoing process. So a key concept will be asked. Example: what's actually a project and what's a program? A project has a start and end date. A program is ongoing. Okay, so this is a very important concept, and in my point of view, nothing to do with exam, is this: a project is where I deploy my most senior people, because I need people who knows the business very well to identify what's critical, to be able to get the project to identify all the key things. What's the strategy that we should be doing? If you send the junior staff, that's where the problem starts. Now, what's a program? A program, I tend to downgrade and release all these senior people to another project in the organization. Hence, the backup will become the part of the program management team. So at this stage, what I tend to do is, when I finish a project, I will start to evolve the whole project team into a program office. And that's where the program management comes in. So as a program management office, what are a few things I need to do? So if you look at the courseware, a few things that we will need to do. First thing is what? Advanced testing exercising, right? Then we need to do audit and review. What other things we need to do? We need to do training and awareness, okay, and maintaining an organization culture. Okay, so these are the few things that we need to really know as part of program management. So how do we and of course plan development. So the first stage, let's go through the program management. So in terms of plan maintenance, how do we update the plan? What's the frequency? That may require you to have a policy. Okay, policy for maintenance of program management. Key activities to be done during the plan development. Who gets a copy of the plan? Okay, so this is the first thing. Next, testing. Bear in mind, we just finished BOK number 6. We talk about testing, exercising. Here in the program management is how do we establish or institutionalize the testing process within your organization. The key is this: it's about policy, it's about setting up a program. So as I mentioned just now, the overall test schedule is actually transferred here, and this is where you get senior management approval to have the test. Because with this, you can seek for budget. Let's say you want to do an offsite test, you have to cost it, and management have said, okay, we are going to achieve this capability. There must be an investment, and that's the reason why our organization failed, because they do not budget for testing. Okay, the only way budget testing is have a 3-year plan and then you budget for it. Like all organization, you want anything, you budget for it. If the management cuts your budget, it means you will not do the test. That's what it means, and they will be accountable to audit committee and the board later on. So that's how we actually get the program running. First set a policy, then run a program. Set a testing program. So the key in exercising is all about testing. That's the key that you must remember. Then we move on to review and audit. Now audit is a compliance requirement. Review is through peers. So I tend to actually introduce a concept whereby I get another BCM professional from another department to actually do the review for you. And now, in view of the recent development of the last 1 to 2 years, we now have BCM standard. So we are using a BCM standard to benchmark against our plan. Like example, CPG, they are going to be certified SS540. So in order to meet the requirement, we are actually being audited by certification body against the SS540. Alright, so this is what I mean by, to me, a review, because this audit report will not go to audit committee. Agree? So that's why the certification audit is actually a review in our context. But if you want to audit, it's a compliance requirement. Okay, so that's what we are quite particular about. What's the difference between review and audit? Because audit has compliance implication. Audit committee will exercise the right to actually sanction senior management. But certification audit, normally, whether it pass or fail, there's actually no impact. Agree? So that's basically why it's called review and why it's called audit. One of the things that you need to understand is what's considered pass. What's the criteria? Okay, one important thing is a lot of people never put this criteria down in the policy. When do you actually update your plan? When do you actually update your program? Whenever there's a major organization change, or whenever there's a merger acquisition, whenever there's a major application change, example, okay, or upgrade, or processes change, or of course after each exercise. These are important things that will trigger test update of the plan, and this again can be part of maintenance policy. So can you imagine at program level stage, what I tend to do is on top of the policy that I've just developed, I will start to introduce exercise and testing policy. I'll introduce maintenance policy. Sometimes I do introduce training policy, BCM training policy. So these are policy, but the program management is where you want to institutionalize the process, and that's where policy comes in. Okay, so the last part of the program management is a concept which we have put in called instilling BCM culture, mindset. This concept is not new, and is beginning to appear in most of the standards in the world. I've seen it in SS540, I've seen it in BS25999, and I'm also seeing it in the ANZ5050 Australian standard. Instilling mindset culture is, in a very simple nutshell, simply put, is this: when the key in business continuity planning is not about recovery. We have always emphasized the need to develop plan to recover. Actually, if I'm given a choice, I will prevent, I will avoid, I will mitigate, as much as I can, right? But in reality, the only way to prevent is actually to do it on the onstart. And hence the instilling of a culture means, example, let's say you're looking for a new office. The first thing I'll do is, who is my neighbor? Is there an embassy there? In Singapore, we're lucky there's no embassy because it all parked in the embassy district. But in a lot of countries, the embassy is in the same building. That's where the problem starts. When there's embassy, something's going to happen, trust me. So the mindset is, hey, there's an embassy here, or there's someone manufacturing on top of me. Again, these are all instilling a resiliency mindset. So the concept of resiliency comes in, whether for exam or not, if you can prevent, build in, or tailor-made it on day one, you have now instilled a value in it. So everyone in the organization, eventually, like from IT to the last person, when we implement the products, have we considered, do we have a backup plan? Okay, have we have some contingency for something happens? And other things is we start to reassess our processes. Can we make it more resilient? Like example, my guys, when we shifted here, we actually in 15 days time, my Malaysia office will also do the same move. What happened is we actually have, being a small company, we actually have our system is being fully backed up on Miro. Not Miro, actually it's a more incremental backup, because end of the day we just activate the system backup each other. So when the system goes down, Malaysia takes over. So these are just example of we took the opportunity to actually shift and actually for once solve the problem. So we will not have an ITDR problem, right? You see what I mean? So these are just examples of building more resiliency into the process, so that if there is really a problem we actually solve the problem. We will not have an IT problem anymore. In fact, all our NAS is being backed up to Malaysia also. So this is just give example of, given if I start from zero again, what will I do? And we are very, very resilient, because all the systems is actually parked outside from this office itself. So even if there's a disaster and there's an exam, life will still go on, costs will still go on. So that's the kind of resiliency that we're thinking of instilling a BC mindset culture in everybody.
Just running some programs and all that.
Yeah. No, but it's the people. Everyone must be in this culture. Yeah. But it takes a while. It doesn't mean we are in this institute, means everybody is BCM trained. But it takes a while to really drive this culture. Next is also in terms of maturity. When you're primary 1, do a primary 1 exam. When you're primary 3, do a primary 3 exam. When you're primary 6, do a primary 6 exam. That's basically the story. So in terms of maturity, what happens is, as organization mature, they must think of doing more advanced testing. Okay, and this is probably the most difficult part. And of course, the last part is culture. The culture that I mentioned, everybody who does anything got to think about preventing, avoiding, minimizing. or even reducing on day one. Okay, so this is basically the culture that needs to be developed, and it's the most difficult part in all organization, because after the project is done, there are other projects on, and this becomes a very, very challenging role for all of us. Okay, so like I say, to conclude, in terms of program management, this is a stage where you set up an office, a program office, which must be actually organized with full-time staffing, or at least a half manager or a half coordinator. Okay, a lot of organizations are now setting up with no manpower, and it's quite dangerous. Okay, because if you don't have any resources, trust me, this program will just die. Okay, so this is the part in the program management. That will be the end of BOK 7 program management.